Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, Mystery Review episode 26. I gave the hints throughout the upcoming days, and last week as well. The hints were Hell Week and the quote, "Seek life elsewhere." Then I gave a bonus hint, which was Jim Caviezel, who is a part of this film, as well as a last final hint, which was self-pity, which does actually become a reference in this film. So Epime and another actually guessed it. I believe the other, if I can actually, she guessed it in DMs on Twitter, because I say, if you know it, don't spoil it. So let me just check my DMs. Yep, it was Sherry. So yes, Sherry, thank you, or you actually got it right as well, as did Epime the Oz. Also, happy birthday to Epime the Oz. It is the 26th it is the 24th where I am, and today is his birthday, so wish him happy birthday if you catch this in the chat. Yeah. So yes, the film that I am indeed reviewing is G.I. Jane. And so Aragorn was so mean in this. Was he though? Was he? That's the question. So yes, G.I. Jane is a 1997 movie by Ridley Scott. It stars Demi Moore, Viggo Mortensen, Anne Bancroft, Jim Caviezel, and many others. The movie was written by Danielle Alexandra and David Twohy. David Twohy, who is famously known for the Riddick movies. Demi also has a producer credit in this film. So the movie basically starts with typewriter text scrolling across the screen as it's like being typed out, and then it just whoosh, right into the or onto the screen. It just kind of whooshes in, making me ill. But yeah, I really actually like that, and it's doing this during a helicopter sweep shot of the Potomac, or helicopter flying along the Potomac River, all the way up into DC, where we are basically introduced to the crux of the movie, of the politics. Now, this movie I won't call a political agenda movie. I will say, however, that this movie does have politics in it, and it did kind of become a boost for women in the military and whatnot. It basically, or yes, there were women in combat before this movie, but it was basically used as a movie to kind of give a little bit of a content on that, you know? And so the movie basically starts with a Senate Arms Committee, I believe, and it's to confirm Daniel von Bargen's character for Secretary of the Navy, or SecNav. And a report comes out about the denigration of a female downed aviator. Senator DeHaven, played by Bancroft, is crusading for women's full integration into the Navy. And Dan von Bargen is aiming to hurt the senator's agenda by integrating a woman into the SEAL program, because they actually think that a woman will not be able to handle the SEALs program, or the CRT, Combat Reconnaissance Teams. So, yeah. SEALs and a woman. Nothing wrong with that. If they can survive the training, if they can handle the training, then they should by all means be allowed in it. Me, I'm all for women's equal rights and all that stuff. If a woman wants to do something and she can show that she can actually do it, then by all means, let her do it. You know? So, yes, we then get to or are pushed to NIC, which is Navy Intelligence Center, where we get introduced to Demi's character, Lieutenant Jordan O'Neill, where she displays sound strategy at the chagrin of her COs, where there is an active or just retweeted your stream announcement. Thank you, Spartan Jeremy, or Spartan Flash Century, sorry. But thank you. I do appreciate the support. And this is during our Master of Fear. Hello, how are you? Looks like people are now showing up. So yes, G.I. Jane is the movie I'm talking about and reviewing today. So the acting in this scene in the NIC, the Navy Intelligence Center, is basically, it's very well done. It shows that women are kind of looked down to, and at that time they kind of were. Hello, Metalong. I mean, this was the mid to late 90s. 97 is the year this movie was made, but it could have been a little bit sooner, you know. But anyway, so there's a unit moving through, needs extraction, and she is a topographical analyst. Well, she points out that there's a great alternate route that can be used, and if they use this route, they will be found. Plus, if they try to or go to someplace else, they'll miss them and be on the wrong encryption. Well, one of her COs is berating her for this. The other one is like, set it exactly to 9 minutes, and if they aren't there, we'll seek the other one. So, they go back to the politics game where the senator is looking over potentials, and they see a muscular or a woman who is a power lifter. They're like, do you want her to be the face of the U.S. Navy? And they see another one who's good, but not exactly up to snuff. And then they see her potential going through her accolades, how she was an Olympic swimmer. She has no priors of any misconduct. And it's Demi Moore, you know? So I do like the sweeping shots of DC. They actually show a lot of DC nowadays, or DC as it was back then. Nowadays, if you are doing a movie in DC, you need to close down all the airspace. You need to basically make sure that everything is in control. Back then, you could do it, or you still had to do it, but it wasn't as tight because 9/11 hasn't happened yet. So, also, folks, while you're here, be sure to smash that like button if you haven't already. Let me get my banner up. So, yes, share the stream out, smash that like button, or blow it up, you know. Do what G.I. Jane would do. Anyway, so then she meets with the senator. The meeting between the senator and Lieutenant Jordan, the sexism is very apparent in this movie. This movie shows a lot of sexism in it because, well, at the time there was a lot of good to see you, Norris. Always a pleasure. So, yes, she's explaining that, or she's like, this is just a training program. If you make it, you make it. If not, you're good, or it's fine. We just want to see if women can be fully integrated into the Navy. And she's like, this is a SEALs training. This is brutal stuff. And she's like, exactly. And does that piss you off? She's like, or she's going over stuff. She's like, do you like, or did that piss you off? Yeah, it pissed me off. Good. I like pissed off. And that actually is a nice line that actually comes back to bite the senator later on. The senator, being Anne Bancroft, who plays Senator DeHaven. So they have her, or they get her signed in, and she goes to Catalano Naval Base, where she meets with C.O. Salem, played by Chris Wilson, I believe. Let me check to just... I believe so, yeah. Or Scott Wilson, not Chris Wilson. And Scott Wilson has been in so many movies. This guy has his accolades. And I love him, how he treats Jordan, discussing the potential problems she may face. And this movie has great cast and acting. And yes, it is a statement movie. As I said, the sexism is very apparent. And he basically says, you'll be given separate bed, separate head, meaning shower head and whatnot. And she's like, my next stop was the barber. And he's like, if you keep it out of your hair or out of your eyes or above your neck, that's fine. I don't give a shit. But you're also going to be put into some very rigorous training. Do you know what this training involves? She's like, yes, sir, I do. And he's like, I don't think you do, but fine. So, yes, she gets put in to separate barracks because she is a woman at the time. And so during mess, the recruits are basically eating and discussing the fact that she got put in there. And she's like, what the fuck, man? Or why the hell did she get put in? Yada, yada. She's a woman. And they're all basically making their sexist joke. Like, I could straighten her out all night. Do you think she's a lesbian? Yada, yada, yada. And you get introduced to a lot of the characters, including one, Jim Caviezel, who plays Slavnik, who is a fucking prick in this movie, but does come down into being a better character. Now, she comes in and she sits in a mess. She sits with other recruits. They're looking at her and everybody's looking at her, and she just is acting as if nothing's wrong. So then we get to just before the training, where the CEO is explaining what the training involves and how 60% of all who enter SEAL training flunk. It has a 60% drop rate. You go in, there's a 60% chance you will not make it through this sort of training. And boy, the training in this movie, how they showed the SEAL training, I don't know what real SEAL training is, but the training that they had in this movie is extremely brutal, folks. They have freaking humongous rolling things that person could get rolled over and it will freaking hurt. It's heavy and whatnot. And Command Master Chief introduce Viggo Mortensen, or bring in Viggo Mortensen as the Command Master Chief. A great performance by him in this movie. Folks, a lot of people say that this was a weaker performance of his. This is actually one of the best performances I've seen of Viggo Mortensen in film. He does a lot to really sell that this is not a training for the faint-hearted. This is not training that you can just scoff off and think, oh, I'm going to get through it easy. No, this training will put you through shit that you didn't think was possible. SEAL training, or the Navy SEALs, are elite units. They are not, or they go through hell. That's why the first week is called Hell Week. And that was one of the hints. So, yes, I also love the poetry that he gives before he tells people. He's like, I have never seen a wild thing sorry for itself. A bird will fall dead frozen from a bough without ever being sorry for itself. And he stops in front of Jordan, finishing that sentence, and you see one of the other recruits laughing about or snickering about it. And he then goes up to him and he's like, the sun and the moon, the ebb and flow of the tide are just a few things that I control in my world. Do you have a problem with that? And he calls out and they answer and they affirm no. And then he gets them, or he has Instructor Pyro get them to do their first evolution. Now, evolution is what's known, or is basically the designation for a training regimen. The first evolution, basically, they are hauling humongous freaking inflatable boats or inflatable rafts. And they have to get it filled with water. They have to hold it. They got to do all sorts of stuff. Like I said, this freaking training is extremely brutal. The cinematography in this film is good. It is chaotic, but it is well done. It is supposed to be chaotic in certain scenes. The training, like I said, is brutal. Then they get called into the mess to get some food. They have 4 minutes to eat this food. Oh, you're not afraid, dude? The thing is, the training in this movie, that mustache on Vigo, though. The training in this movie, if you were to go through it, it's not just brutally physically. It is brutal. It is brutal in a psychological level, too. They fucking torture you in this training in certain aspects of it. The SEER training later on. They freaking beat the shit out of you. Maybe not personally, physically, but my God, they will put you through the ringer. And you will either come out a quitter, or you will come out as one of the most specialized and elite military members in history. This isn't, like I said, this isn't training for the faint-hearted, and I cannot stress just how brutal this training is. Now, they go in for the food, and when they're going in, one person sits down, and one of the instructors kicks him right out of the damn seat. He's like, I didn't tell you could sit in my seat. And as they're all eating, they have to then throw their food into a trash can, and you see some of them stuffing some of the food into their clothes and whatnot. So then they have to go right back out and do it again on a filled stomach, or however full the stomach was, and they have to keep doing it. And they tell them, my day does not end until somebody rings that bell 3 times. You want to stop this abuse? You ring that bell, you get to go home, have a nice meal, and put your legs up, and that's it. There's no shame in that. He's basically toying with them, daring them to quit. And during the scenes, one of them, I think his name was Flea, he gets rolled over by one of those big things that they were trying to haul up some sandhills. And they try telling him, he's like, you fit to go on and whatnot. Then get your ass up and start moving. They rip him up onto his feet and shove him back into it. And while they're now pulled in, holding up a small medical check, where you see a female corpsman come in, who's also important in this film. I believe the female corpsman was, let me see if I can find her, because I know she was in this movie. Lucinda Jenny, who played Blondie. She was a corpsman, and she checks all of them. She checks O'Neill. I love how she asks one of them, what day is it? It's fucking cold. That's what day it is. I mean, they're shivering. They're cold. This is not freaking easy training. I can't stress that enough. I'm going to possibly say that a lot. So then they're holding up their inflatables above their heads like this. That inflatable is full of seawater, and if they spill, they're in trouble. And he's like, nobody's going to ring that bell? Okay, welcome to a brand new day. Basically saying they're not going to bed until somebody rings out. And then Flea, the one who had the busted up knee, I believe, or it was somebody else, he actually comes out, and he stops, and he goes up, and he rings the bell, and then they're all able to stop. So then the next evolution is an essay, where you have to write in 500 neatly printed words why you love the United States Navy. And I absolutely love what he does. He turns off the lights. Yo, just got dissing MOTU, Masters of the Universe Revelations. What movie are we reviewing today? G.I. Jane. Right, Kitty. G.I. Jane. Demi Moore as a Navy SEAL, basically, or training to be a Navy SEAL. And so the essay, basically, he turns off the light, he cranks the heat, and he tells them, put your pencil down, get your feet together, and sit up straight. That's exactly how he does it. He's like, put that pencil down, put your feet together, and sit up straight. Just looking at the guy. And then he tells him, when I come back here, I'm going to be counting open eyes. And there's no time for this evolution. Evolution, for those of you who are just joining, is the time period, or not the time period, but the training. Maza, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in. Evolution is the name, or is basically code for what, or the training regimen, the training sequence that they go through. And you see her pull out food, munch, give the guy next to her a little bit so he can have some of the food. He just shoves it right into his mouth as they're writing down their stuff. And the heat is cranked and the light is poor. So yeah, you're torturing your eyes to do this. Oh, I've never heard of that, or I've heard of it, but never watched it. I thought Hell Week rang a bell, but it was leaning towards a horror movie. Yeah, Hell Week is the first week of SEAL training. If you make it through Hell Week, you have a very good chance of making it through. Getting ready for bed. Well, I know that it is late for you guys in Australia. Also, before you all go to bed, make sure you wish either a happy belated or a happy birthday to Epime the Oz. It is his birthday here in the United States, because I know in Australia it is already the next day. It is the 25th over there. So, yep, make sure you put happy birthday in the chat for Epime. He had a lovely birthday, I'm guessing. So, yeah. Then you see Jordan writing her essay, and then you see a bunch of drips, and she looks up and she sees Command Master Chief. His hat is dripping on her stuff, or her essay, and he's like, favorable weather conditions for the next evolution. You ready, Lieutenant? And then it is a lot of rain. It is just freaking freezing rain, folks. They do not joke in this freaking movie. So, yep, you getting a lot of happy birthdays for Epime. He was the first person in here whose comment was Aragorn was not nice, or was so mean in this. So, yep, Epime, happy birthday, buddy. And yeah. Yep, lots of rain. So they have to do a training course next time, or now. And the training course, you have to do it with full gear. And they say that O'Neill will have a step given to her. That's mandatory female training aid, basically. And she's like, I don't need a step. I want it got it out like the rest of the guys. Shut your fucking hole, Lieutenant, and fall back in line. They're not kidding. They do not treat her well in this movie. They don't treat anybody well in this training. And so she's gutting it out. She's pushing through, and she helps her fellow teammates get up over that wall at the end. And then Cortez basically saying, you really should quit, Jordan. And then he lets her go. By the way, during this training course, you have live ammo being fired all over you. You have freaking flares being fired on you as if you are in an active combat situation. And you also have Viggo Mortensen with a high-powered sniper rifle shooting just above your heads. and you see his or you see through his scope. Now there are a couple of cinematography errors in this scene, specifically with that scope, because you're not seeing through the scope looking at the people. They put the scope overlay on the camera itself, showing them gutting it out, and you see one post near her or near Jordan splinter up because he shoots the post near her. And then when Cortez fucks her over near the end of the course to try let her down before she can get over the wall, you see from her point of view Cortez going over with the sniper scope overlay. So that was definitely a movie error, and it does kind of hit or chip a little bit off the objective part of it. So then she gets over the wall using the aid that she didn't want to use, but she was kind of forced to, and she accidentally trips a tripwire. How you doing, Sherry? Good to see you. Always a pleasure. And then when she trips it, an explosion goes off. Not a very powerful one, but one to let you know that she actually, yes, it was a very big movie error. And they're like, Lieutenant Jordan has just killed the entire squad. And they're blasting them with fire hoses, saying, everybody is just dead. Congratulations to Lieutenant Jordan for getting your entire unit killed. So then they're going over the 6 failing times, and Jordan was not a part of the 6 that failed. So, and as they're all ready to go back to their barracks, you see Command Master Chief come in, and he's like, everybody as you were. And he goes right up to Cortez, slams an oar in his chest, and he says, there's 2 words that you're going to have to learn to put together, Cortez. Team mate. Letting him know exactly that he knew that that Cortez fucked over Lieutenant Jordan. Now, Cortez failed in the timing, and you see 4 other people ring out of the training program. They go right up to the bell and start ringing it out because they can't handle it, And you see Jordan looking at the bell, and she's questioning whether or not she should actually ring out. Now, hold on one second, folks. Get a little bit more light in here. Oh, wrong button. And cycle it through. Crank up. Okay, that circle light is no longer working. I have an alternate. Oops. Turn on the fan instead. Little bit of goof here, folks. There we go. So, yes. She's looking at it, and one of the instructors is like, you want to do it, right? Or you want to do it, Jordan? Come on. Come on. Come on. And get back to your freaking barracks. And so she goes up, and she's like, you know what? Hold on a second. I don't like this. So she goes knocking on the instructor's cabin. And you see Viggo Mortensen doing maintenance on his sniper rifle. And she requests to see the Master Chief. And Pyro's there. He's like, Lieutenant Jordan requesting to see the Master Chief. He waves her away. He's like, he's not home. And so they try closing the door. She pushes it open. She's like, I fell behind him in a time. I want to know why I got a pass and he didn't. And so Viggo Mortensen's like, Instructor Pyro, educate the lieutenant. You had before you even started the course, you had a 30-second window, or you had a 30-second timing, which put you under the wire. So that is why you failed, or that is why you passed and they didn't. It's called gender norming, O'Neill. It's standard protocol. So basically, she had a 30-second head start, as it were, basically. I was in the Navy. Pretty sure you have to be able to swim 2 miles just to try out before any training. I was an electrician on Seahawk helicopters. I had 25 minutes to run a mile and a half. 25 minutes or 2.5 minutes. Because most kids are running miles or a full mile in school in like 7 to 8 minutes. Yeah. A mile and a half, 25-minute mile run. That's nothing. But yeah. Anyway. So then she doesn't like that. And so she's like, so what how am I supposed to get anywhere in this training if I can't gut it out with like the rest of the guys? How am I supposed to get any respect in this situation? And this pisses off Command Master Chief, and he goes up to the door and he tells her, stand at attention. Lieutenant O'Neill, when I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. Then he fully slams that door right into her face, almost smacking her nose. Howdy, partner. How you doing, Kamen Rider? Good to see you. So she then goes to her CO Salem, and he's like, did you take this up with my Command Master Chief? And she's like, you told me to come to you personally if I had any grievances. So he's like, okay, give me names, give me specific grievances. What's wrong? Honestly, it's you, sir. This began since I got here. I mean, how am I, it's the double standard that I cannot stand. She hates the double standard. And he's like, why don't you just put me in or she tells him, how am I supposed to gut this training out if I can't eat, or if I have to, or if I'm getting special treatment? I don't want the special treatment. If I can deal with hell, or what the hell you've been through in life, the military doesn't scare me at all. I don't know what you've been through, bud. I honestly can't say. But if it's worse than active combat situations during training, yeah, then I would say that yeah. So then she's like, why don't you put me in a pink petticoat while you're at it? And he says, did you just have a brain fart? Begging your pardon, sir? Did you just bark at a superior officer? Because I consider that a bona fide brain fart. And I absolutely hate it when trainees fart in my presence. So he goes off on her and he tells her, and you want to know what I can't stand? I cannot stand that we are giving or have to do all of this double standards either. And I also hate the fact that I also hate your perfume, no matter how subtle, competing with the odor of my $3.50 cigar, which I will gladly put out if it violates the delicacies of your sensibilities. Does it? No, sir. No, sir. What? The smell doesn't bother me. It's the sweet goddamn stench. So he's like, what's your condition? Just treat me the same, no better, no worse. And he's like, I will take your request under advisement. You're going to get what you want, Lieutenant. The question is, are you going to want what you got or what you're going to get? And so then she gets put in, or she goes to the barber. She shaves her own head, which is also a very nice scene because she shaves her head. Demi Moore actually shaved her head in this movie, which shows the commitment. Good on you, Demi. And she then joins the boys in the barracks. She gets put in the barracks with the men. And they're all getting woken up. And Jim Caviezel's like right next to you. He's like, you can't be in here. What are you doing in here? And she's like, CO says I can't. He's like, so he grabs one of the other guys. He's like, look at this. Well, you got to deal with tampons now and all this shit. And I got to be under the same head as her. And she starts going off. And then because they only had 2 hours of rack time, sleep time, well, two freaking flashbangs are thrown in and they come in firing shots to wake them the hell up. Basically, you're being scared awake, so you know what it's like to be under fire if you're even sleeping at all, and you got to wake up to the sounds of gunfire and flashbangs and all that shit to see if you can keep a level head. And then one of the other recruits basically says, in your own time, schedule up a showering schedule for everybody in the unit. And he's then goes up to Jordan and he's like, is there anything we can do to help further your celebrity, Lieutenant? No, sir. Or she then says, no, sir. And then he tells everybody, get your fucking asses. You got exactly 1 minute to get the hell out and into the training. So then we get cuts to the politics, and you see that the secretary, or Daniel von Bargen's character, has been approved for SecNav. And he then, or you also see Royce, her boyfriend, who at first told her, it's like, I didn't want you to, or he's like, this is going to be brutal shit. And she's like, I just hate the politics. I'm not here to make a statement. I want to try it. You know, what if I go active and am out for 3 years, not 3 weeks? She has to deal with all sorts of sexism. But during this party, you see Royce talking or overhearing the celebrations. He then sees several of the COs, and they're like, Royce, we need a fourth. Come on in. And they're talking about they're doing a little bit of sexism, playing Yonkers or some sort of pool game that has way too many pool balls. And hold on. So then, while they're talking about it, Daniel von Bargen comes in, pissed off that she made it through Hell Week. He's like, or because also photos have been leaked about a female in the Navy. And, well, this is causing quite a stir. The news media is catching wind of it. So, when they're like, how far did she get? Or because her SecNav is basically saying she wouldn't last a week. Well, no, wouldn't last a week, huh? She's already made it 2 weeks. She made it through Hell Week. Why don't we just get it over with and call her Joan of Arc? You know? And he's like, how do you know about how far she's made it and whatnot? I've made a few unofficial inquiries. Well, now make it official. You're working for me now. So now her boyfriend is basically tasked with watching over her training or reading over her training and whatnot. I just meant that the requirements are actually pretty easy unless you go special forces. SEAL training is worse or is far more brutal than the special forces training. Army or recon or Marine Recon Delta, Army, all of their elites try to go in for are below the SEALs. Then they are extremely hard. I did my 1.5 miles in 9:55 and had lots of time left over. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's what you meant. Oh, I thought, yeah. So anyway, training continues. You see her, and the news gets out, and then you see the politics bitching, or you see the senator bitching about it, how she got caught on camera and such. So then she's out in the sea, and she has to drag her own body weight out of the water. And because she was slow at doing it, they cut her loose. And you hear Cortez, the same guy that fucked her over in the last or in previous training evolutions. He's like, about time we drop some dead weight. And then you see Vigo go right up to him and kick him right out of the boat. And he's like, we don't leave our men behind. What the hell are y'all doing in here? Get the fuck out of here. He kicks the entire unit out of the freaking boats. And they're like, should we go back for him? Let's go home. He forces them to swim back home or swim back into shore. And they're pretty much like a 1/2 mile out or something like that. And Jordan is talking with one of the black guy on or in the unit. And he's like, my grandfather wanted to join the Navy. And they said he couldn't. And he gave the racist reasons why. They said because Negroes couldn't see at night. This is a direct quote, folks. This is not me saying the word of my own volition. This is me directly quoting the movie. Or they said Negroes couldn't see at night. Poor night vision. That's the reason why his character, or the black guy's grandfather, couldn't go out or couldn't be put in the Navy. Now, the black guy, I really should see who it was. McCool, that was his name. Morris Chestnut. So he's like, so I basically can relate with you, Lieutenant. You're basically the new N-word on the block. That's all. And yeah, he basically said he says the hard R N-word. So she's slowly getting respect from her fellow recruits. And so while she's showering afterward, you see Vigo go in and talk with her and whatnot. And he's like, she then fires right back at him. And she's like, you got the Navy Cross, right? Can I ask what you got it for? Well, since it bears context on the situation, I pulled a 40-pound man out of a burning tank. And he's like, could you do that? I don't know. Haven't been put in the opportunity. He's like, you weren't even able to pull your own body weight out of the water. So then he's informing her that she gets command of her own unit or boat or one of the boat units. And because their CO was busted out with a busted knee. So she's like, why don't you give it to another one? He's the same rank. Yes, but you came in before he did. You're senior officer. So then we see how she's continuing to do good, and everything is documented. The politics are gunning for her. They don't want her to do well. Royce is concerned because he knows what training is coming up, the SEER training. And he's making it through, and you're seeing the senator. She's like, can't believe she's actually doing so well. And you also see SecNav. He's like, we're going to have to put pressure on DeHaven, on the senator. So then we get to SEER training, which stands for which is Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape training. This is one of the most brutal things I have ever seen when it comes to a movie. Hold on, folks. I'm sorry, I have to take this. So, back. Sorry about that. So, yes, they. Anyway, so they have to basically go in, get as much intel about a certain area, and then get out without being captured. And this is, like I said, this is one of the most brutal training sequences I've ever seen in a military branch ever. And yeah, it may be in a movie. I don't know if it's the real kind of stuff because I honestly have never met a Navy SEAL. But yes, this is some stuff that you really don't want to be a part of. Slavnik and Cortez are separated from the group so that they can do forward recon. And Slavnik sees a skull with a army helmet. So they go up to see it, and Cortez tells Slavnik no, and he's like, I just want a souvenir. And he's like, no, man, seriously. And Jordan's trying to tell them to come back too. It's like, squad leaders, squad fuck up. Get your asses back. You are compromising the unit. And they get caught because of Slavnik's fuck up. And then all the officers are getting the hell beat out of them. They're being taken one by one into the all this military training sounds easy. Probably usually fail it because they're too busy thinking about the pain instead of moving forward. That is one way of thinking about it. But yes, another part of the training was that they were getting waterboarded as well. This was even before SEER training. They basically tell them, you have to learn what it's like to drown. You have to learn how to keep your head in the game. You have to learn to maintain discipline under the harshest, stressful situations. Now, then they take Wickwire in. His knee is busted up because he got injured. And she tells him, don't let them use me again, or do not let them use me to get anything. Do not let me be a weakness for you. And he's like, all right. And so they pull her in, and Instructor Pyro's going easy on her. And so then Command Master Chief comes in. He's like, why didn't you carry out your wounded, Lieutenant? Was he too heavy, or were you just chicken shit? She's like, you're not going to get anything out of me. You might as well put me back in the cage. And he starts pounding into her. He freaking just gives her a straight up uppercut, knocking her out of the damn chair. And he's like, you are in a cage. And he starts hitting her. And then the other instructor is like, or says something. He's like, Master Chief. He's like, what? You got a problem with this, Max? And he actually nods. And so he tells him, he's like, then get the fuck out of here. Get out. And he starts smacking her around and beating the shit out of her. And she's like, is this supposed to be intimidating, or am I supposed to be afraid? Right down to your worthless womb. And he's like, do you really think women belong here? And she's like, fuck you. I'm so glad we agree. He throws her out into the full view of the other recruits who are captured and puts her under, or dunks her in, basically drowning, or essentially trying to drown her. And he's like, there are 2 more gun units out in the woods. Anybody who gives me solid intel will stop this. It can all stop right now. Just give me one piece of solid intel. None of them are talking. And then you see him pull her up, shove her up against the table, and he then takes his knife. He's like, you need to know what it's like to be captured, Lieutenant, and what people go through under capture. And she's like, am I supposed to bleed too? Is that supposed to make me a better soldier? And he's like, absolutely. And so he's cutting her pants, and they're like, it's a fucking game, Lieutenant. It's a fucking game, Jordan. And he's like, Mr. Newberry, you want to stop this abuse? You want to be chivalrous? Give me some information, and this will stop right now. And he tries telling him. He's like, Jordan, tell him something or I will. Don't you tell him shit. And so when he's actually pulling down her pants, she cracks him in the nuts or kicks her leg up, cracking him in the nuts, and then throws her head back, breaking his nose. And then she starts beating the hell out of Master Chief. And she's like, oh, don't you look pretty? And that's when she stopped, because she kicked him in the nuts. She was kicking him in the face. She was kicking him in the stomach, all of it with her hands tied behind her back. And folks, the blood in this scene looked real. It was the most realistic blood I've ever seen. And so he told her, don't start something you can't finish. And then he delivers a pretty solid freaking kick straight to her face, and then picks her up and gives her one more hard right cross, which puts her down on the ground and kind of out cold a little bit. So then the recruits are like, you're a real fucking hero, man. And they all turn their back on him. And so he goes up to him. He's like, guys, I'm saving her life and yours. Her presence makes us vulnerable. I don't want you learning that inconvenient fact under fire. So then as he's saying that, she's getting up and she's like, Master Chief, Lieutenant, seek life elsewhere, which is another hint that I gave. And so she tells him, suck my dick, which gets her entire unit to actually celebrate and actually laugh at the Command Master Chief and basically start going hoorah. And so he turns around, goes up to her, gives her a nod of approval. They basically passed. They stood a chance. Or they actually survived SEER training. And so Pyro goes up to him Master Chief busts or cracks his nose back in, straightening it out. And he's like, I was out of line in there. Won't happen again. Yeah, it will. Maybe not with you or me or the others, but it will happen again. She's not the problem. We are. Basically, he is saying that we cannot, or we are taking it too easy on women who want to try to do what we can do. We can't afford to frickin' show that kind of compassion in this training. It will get people killed. So then the report hits Senator DeHaven's desk that she passed SEER training. And Senator DeHaven also learned that 5 of her bases are now on the chopping block for closure. So the SecNav is basically trying to force her hand. And the fears of Jordan's friendship with the corpsman, because the corpsman goes up to her. She's like, God damn, you look like shit. And she's like, thank you. And so they're talking about meeting up with some of the other girls to just have a nice little barbecue out on the beach. And she's like, no, the unit's taking me out for celebration and whatnot. So she goes out with the unit, sees them, and then when Master Chief gets there, she's still kind of not happy with the Master Chief for kind of getting beating the shit out of her. So he's also seeing her and the corpsman talking to each other. And then a press person catches her after she leaves the bar to meet up with the corpsman and her friends and at the beach. And pictures are taken from the press with telephoto lenses. So now, this was back during a time where fraternization with the same sex in the military was an absolute no-no. This was conduct unbecoming, basically. So yeah, the JAGs are basically called on her, and they basically are saying that a full investigation will pend, and you will be assigned to a desk. And they're like, a desk? What the hell? These accusations are baseless? He's like, you will be able to complete the training. I can't go through this shit again. Ratchet it down, Lieutenant. And she's like, so she basically says, I do not wish to repeat this training or be assigned a desk, sir, against allegations that are patently baseless. So you can either put me back with my unit or you can get rid of me. And the CO is like, that sounded dangerously like an ultimatum. Well, take it as you will, sir. She is then forced out. They tell her that you're out without it being shown in there. So she leaves because she saw the corpsman there too. And she's like, don't worry, it's me they're after. So then she goes up with a bat straight up to the bell and smacks the bell with the bat, busting the bat over the bell. And you see Viggo Mortensen turn his head, listening to the bell being rung. He doesn't have a smile on his face. Usually he has a smile on his face when the bell's rung to others, because he knows that they were basically shit and didn't deserve to be in the course. But when she rang out, it wasn't happy. It wasn't the time to celebrate. And while this is happening, Royce, her boyfriend, is basically checking paperwork of the leaked photos and seeing that there is a overlay that matches Senator DeHaven's paperwork. Basically, the senator set her up. So, yeah, she set her up to fail because she was doing too good. So, the politics basically forced her hand, and so she goes back to her boyfriend. She talks, and he shows her the paperwork. Oh, shit, I did. Or going back to my talking points, there was a moment at the bar. I should say this, or I wanted to point this out because it was so freaking funny. You see Demi go into a restroom. Now she is all bruised up and cut up from the SEER training, and she has her dress on and she's washing her hands and whatnot. And another woman sees this and she's like, "It might be none of my business, but I say leave the son of a bitch." She looks like a battered woman because of it. And she just looked, she's like, what the fuck? It is just so fucking hilarious, that part. But back on track. Roy shows her the proof that the senator sabotaged her training. So she goes to confront the senator. And while they're walking into the Capitol, Royce pulls her over and he's like, check this out. They're going over the list of closures for bases. And as I said, 5 of the bases were on the chopping block in Texas, which is Senator DeHaven's state. And they go straight to that moment. Closures in Texas, none. And so Royce tells her, last week, Texas had 5 bases on the chopping block. Now they have none. What does that tell you? So she goes into the committee at the top in the podium areas, and the senator sees her, and she's like, let's call a recess. And so she sees Jordan. And she's like, or Jordan wastes no time. She's like, I must commend you, Senator. Those were pretty good photos. And so she's like, yes, we took some photos, but those were going to be used as publicity and were supposed to be kept out of certain hands. Well, then how did the Navy get their hands on them? You're going to have to ask them. If I have to ask again, Senator, it will be on C-SPAN. So the senator pulls her into a room, has some privacy, and she's like, I didn't expect you to do so damn well. No, or the people in this country do not want to see women in combat situations. They do not want to see women coming back in body bags. And she tells me, she's like, tell me you didn't sell me out. Tell me you didn't sink my career for votes and bases. She's like, to be honest, I didn't think you were going to do so damn well. I thought you would ring out after 2 weeks, bing, bam, everybody's popular. In Washington, you don't even need the 10 commandments if you're popular. And so she's like, I wonder what the SecNav will think after you sabotaged my training for votes, for re-election chances, votes, and bases. What makes you think he doesn't know already? So then the best shot in this movie, the most serious shot in this movie is where she turns right to the senator and just gives her a look saying, I will fucking end you. Basically, that's what the look says. It is a very neutral-faced look, but it says a million words. Everybody says a picture is worth 1,000 looks or 1,000 words. Well, this look that she is giving DeHaven is worth about a million. And they're all basically saying, I will fucking end your career right here, right now. So she's like, you don't dare play politics with me, honey. You'll be up way past your bedtime. And so she tells her, you like pissed off? Watch this. Now honestly, the watch this, I think that was a wasted line. That line, honestly, I think could have been taken out. It's like, you like pissed off? And her walking out would have been a lot more serious. So then the senator's coming out. She's like, you are asking me to unring a bell. I cannot do that. I'm not asking. Jordan, before you go out, or think about what you're doing before you go in front of the cameras and embarrass yourself. And so she stops her from going out, holding the door shut. She's like, You play one hell of a good game, brinkmanship. I'm not playing games, Senator. I'll do it. Fine. One way or another, I'll get you back in. So then she arrives by a helicopter, and Command Master Chief, he's like, I don't know what the hell has been going on in the last 20 or 48 hours. And frankly, I don't give a shit. Good to see you too, Master Chief. And the rest of the unit is watching her, and they're like, Mr. Wickwire, considering how everybody's up at 0500, why don't you get your asses out here and or into your gear and ready to go? They're like, all right, Master Chief. So he's like, you ready for round 2, Lieutenant? And she's like, hoorah, Master Chief. And so they immediately cut to the next evolution, where the next evolution is readiness training, where they are in the operations readiness training in the Mediterranean Sea. They're on a submarine, which they said she couldn't go on because they didn't have facilities for women in the submarines, which pissed her off. But yes, now, or while they're waiting for their orders for their operational readiness training, this is basically their final test to what they are before they graduate as SEALs. Well, instead of the training exercise, they get diverted. They get operational orders, and it's an actual active situation. It's the real thing, not a training situation. So Master Chief goes up and he's like, Iran or Iraq? Libya. One of our satellites got down, and we need your unit to pull for extraction. And he's like, Master Chief, I know that these are recruits, but I need to know right now. If you think for 1 second that they're not ready for this, they'll be fine, sir. Okay, then. So then Master Chief rounds them all out, and they go through the debriefing. Now, Jordan, remember, is Navy intelligence, so she knows a lot of stuff. And so they tell them about the down satellite. And she's like, is this part of the KH family, sir? And she's like, go ahead, or Lieutenant, fill us in. So she tells him, sub-hunter satellites are ran nuclear. What movie am I talking about? Kamen Rider. It is G.I. Jane with Demi Moore. And so she tells them that the satellite is down and we need to get it because it is nuclear. It has a protective shroud of weapons-grade plutonium. It fell in Gaddafi's backyard. Now, for those of you who do not know, Muammar Gaddafi was a terrorist leader. He ruled with an iron fist. He was a dictator in the Middle East. So, yeah, they didn't want Gaddafi getting his hands on weapons-grade plutonium. Gaddafi was also assassinated in 2011 after his regime was overthrown. So they have them right up into the beach, and the mission goes sideways. The wreckage is retrieved by by Army Rangers, and they're moving or need extraction from the SEALs. So when the mission goes sideways and Command Master Chief and Jordan are checking out one of the outpost areas. Yep, Libya. And she's has to hide because one of the some of the militia end up going up there. They're right in the middle of the extraction zone area to where they need to pass through. And so one of them's moving up, and Master Chief's like, hold on, he might blow right by you. Well, we're not that lucky, so stay quiet, stay down. And then the guy goes in. He's about to leave, but then he notices something's amiss. And Jordan has her knife out, ready to kill this guy. And Viggo Mortensen, he's like, I'm going to take him out right now. As soon as I do, you run for it. And she's like, I could do this. Just let me do this. Well, he doesn't give her the chance. He pops the dude in the head with a very loud sniper rifle. And that alerts the rest of the militia. He's like, get going. I'll hold them, or I'll cover you while you get out. And so, hold on one second. Yeah, sorry about that. So she makes it back to the beach or beachhead where the extraction is, and Master Chief is still shooting at the militia areas, and they're firing back at him. And she's like, "Do some head work with me right now. Master Chief is heading here, or we're here. Master Chief is here. He will not head back to the beachhead. And lead him right to us. That he wouldn't do that. Or you want my opinion, he'll probably head here and whatnot. So get on the radio, Ranger, or get to or tell the Rangers that we're diverting because this beachhead is now compromised and whatnot." So yeah, and so they then start heading towards the alternate extraction, and they come under fire, and you also see Master Chief set up a trap where he puts his rifle, or he puts one of his rifles over a live grenade and pulls the pin, keeping the lever part of it down. So when somebody lifts up the gun, boom, So he eventually gets shot, and the engagement's camera work, it does a really good job at expressing the chaos of the situation. So when he gets shot, and the entire sequence has a very shaky cam, but it's not shaking enough to take you out of it. So they eventually get to Master Chief. She starts hauling him out herself. She hauls him out. She's like, "Cover me, I'm going to get Master Chief." And she gets him out. And so they end up getting a gunship and an evac ship, or evac air, or air evac, or medevac as they call it, to get him in. Or they show him getting a needle in his leg and him screaming about it. And he's like, "I'll never live this down." So after they get out, the mission is accomplished. They got the wreckage from the satellite and whatnot. So yes, the mission is accomplished. And Royce is in the NIC listening in on this whole mission. Because, yeah, he still cares about his girlfriend, So then the mission is accomplished, and they go straight to the graduation ceremony, where he's like, "Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations." And they're like, "Thank you, Master Chief." And he's like, "Congratulations, ma'am." And then he walks off, and he has a leg brace, and he's walking with a cane because he was shot in the leg. So then she goes in during the celebrations into her locker, and she finds a book. And then she also finds a Navy cross in it, and she's like, "What?" So she looks immediately to the side, and you see Command Master Chief walking out. He gave her his Navy cross because she deserved it. She may not have been on official orders, but that is something that is worth, or she couldn't get that accommodation publicly because, well, one, obvious reasons, and two, more obvious reasons, it was kind of a classified operation. You don't want the U.S. military knowing that, or you don't want the Middle East, Libya, knowing that U.S. military was active in your area. So, yeah. So then she sees a passage, and she recognizes the passage that she's reading. It was the same passage that Master Chief wrote or read or recited during the beginning of their training about self-pity. "I've never seen a wild thing sorry for itself. A bird will fall dead frozen from a bough before ever feeling sorry for itself." And it really is a great scene. They do have, or it is in slow motion a little bit at the end of it. And that's when they start rolling credits, and you hear the reciting of the next line of recruits. You don't see them, but it's basically the same recitement from the CEO Salem during the beginning of her training and whatnot. She made it as a SEAL. in this movie, and credits are rolling during this time. Now, this movie, objectively, I would give about an 8.5 out of 10. There are some very big errors, like that or camera overlay with the scope or sniper scope, and it really does chip away a little bit here and there. There is some writing issues like that, or like wasted lines that were really not needed. There was a couple of acting problems where you could tell that the actors didn't want to really be saying stupid lines like these, but they kind of had to, so it did kind of seem forced. However, this movie had great direction. It is a Ridley Scott film. Back in the 90s, he was a very good director. He, even back, or 70s, 80s, and 90s, he was very good. This movie had great camera work. It had a great score. It had a lot of great acting. Demi Moore's dedication to this film was truly great. And a lot of people nowadays would be like, oh my God, this is so woke. This movie, if it was made nowadays, would definitely be woke or considered woke. However, it was not woke back then because this was what it was like back then. And honestly, I think that Demi Moore played a very strong female character. So yeah, that is a true strong female character. So, subjective, this movie is a 10 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I haven't seen it in a while, but I still did enjoy it. Moviegoer, the movie is about a 9 out of 10. It has a little bit of pacing issues here and there too, but for the most part, this movie was enjoyable. And that is going to wrap up the review. However, I am going to give my next round of hints for next week's mystery review, which might be at night, considering I will probably be back with back with my brother helping out with the kid or with his kids babysitting. So the next hints are Russell Crowe and Enya. Those are your two hints. If you know it, do not give it away in the chat. And if you know it, I will post the hints on Twitter as well. So definitely you can leave your guesses there. But if you absolutely know it, DM me your guess because I don't want it given away. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Norris, Cayman Rider, Master of Fear, Riot Kitty, Sherry, Metalong, Mazza, Epime. Thank you all for tuning in. Spartan Flash Century, thank you as well for dropping in. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you like the button or smash that like button. Share the stream out so that people can see it or catch the replay and whatnot. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. Can't wait to talk Solid Snake versus Punisher this Friday. I have a panel set up for that one. It's going to be normal time, 9 p.m. at night. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble.